Hi, I'm Jake Reichbart, and in today's lesson I'm going to offer you a complete study of drop chords on the guitar. I'm going to completely demystify this concept for you. You'll be able to take this concept as far as you'd like, or not far at all, just get a handful of voicings out of it, or you'll be able to play thousands of additional chord shapes on the guitar. It all depends how far you want to take it. Throughout this lesson, I'm going to make reference to the concept of inverting chords, to chord inversions. I have a great lesson available here on YouTube. Just check it out. I'll make a link below. A lesson that is dedicated to that idea, exactly how to invert any chord on the guitar. This is going to come in very handy. Also below, there's going to be available a PDF for sale for $5. This PDF will have in it illustrated all the chord shapes that I'm going to offer in this lesson. And by the way, this lesson is going to come probably in several parts, maybe 3 or 4, to keep the video size files manageable. And so if in the title it does not say part 1, if it says part 2 or 3, make sure to watch part 1 and watch the videos in succession so you get the most out of it. And so the PDF that will be available to purchase will have the chord shapes in it from all the parts of this video. Lastly, if you enjoy this free lesson, please consider supporting me by purchasing some of my full-length video lessons. If you're not familiar with me, I have on this channel many hundreds of soul guitar performances of pop and jazz standards, great tunes that you recognize and you will enjoy. Check those out. For many of these arrangements, I have full-length video lessons that run 90 minutes up to 2 hours sometimes. And consider purchasing those for me. In the meantime, enjoy this lesson. To start with, we're going to relate the idea of drop chords to one particular chord. That will be the C major 7 chord, a chord that has in it the notes C, E, G, and B. Of course, once you get past that, obviously there are other chords in the world. There are your minor chords, minor 7 flat 5 chords, major 7 sharp 5, and so on and so on. The concept will be identical to all these chords, but to get started, we'll start with the C major 7. And even before we talk about drop chords, I think the first thing to talk about is the difference between an open voicing and a closed voicing. And to do so, I'll demonstrate 2 voicings right away. You are probably familiar with both. This is the first one. I'm playing on the middle 4 strings the notes C, E, G, and B. I will also demonstrate a second voicing, also of C major 7, that will have the exact same notes in it, but in a different order. It's going to be this one. In this case, the order of the notes is C, G, B, and E. The first one was a closed voicing. The second one was an open voicing. What makes one closed and what makes one open? The closed voicing is one whereby nowhere between any 2 notes can you squeeze in another chord note from the same chord. That is to say, the notes are as close to each other as possible. To understand that, it might be worth looking at the other one, at the open voicing. Here's a C, here's a G. In between those 2 notes, there is an E that we could be playing, but which we are not playing. That is an opening. Between this C and G, there's an opening of a note that we are not playing. Similarly, between this B and E, there is a C note that we could be playing, but we are not. So there's an opening between this B and this E. So in fact, this particular voicing has 2 openings in it. It is an open voicing. This is a closed voicing. Now just for a moment, I want to take a detour and talk about inversions. We want to invert chords on the guitar because if we're playing 4-note chords and we know our inversions, we have 4 times as many chord shapes, voicings that we can play. That can come in handy in any tune, and when we want to offer variety, why play the same shape all the time every time it says C major 7 in the chart? Wouldn't it be nice to have more chord voicings? What's more, when you invert a chord, every time you have a different note in the melody. That means that if you're into chord melody, playing chord melodies, then the top note is important for you because that is the melody note. With this in mind, here's your closed voicing C major 7. As I mentioned, I have a lesson that shows you how to invert any chord on the guitar. So I will skip it exactly in the process and just go ahead and actually invert the chord. And as you will see, this is going to be very difficult to do with closed voicings. Every note in this voicing is going to move up on each string individually to the next chord note on that string. As a result, if this note moves up here, if this note moves here, if this note moves here, and this one moves here, we'll get this voicing. This painful voicing that I can barely play. There it is. As you can see, it's very hard to play. If you have bigger hands, you can play it, and it's actually quite nice sounding voicing. But it's obviously very hard to play. If I keep moving up the scale, up the neck, I will come upon this voicing, which actually is a little bit easier to play. Remember, this is still C major 7. Now it has the 5 in the bass. Worth probably playing if you have, like I said, bigger hands. This one is a little bit easier to play than the previous one. There it is, and this one again. If I do this again, I'm going to, again, come upon a chord voicing that is hard to play. In fact, even if I could play it cleanly, it's very hard in a context of a tune where you're switching chords quickly to access this chord. So the problem with closed voicings is right there, apparent that they're very hard to play. Nevertheless, I'd like to suggest that you do not give up on them completely, because what I just played, or attempted to play, were chords in C major 7. That doesn't mean that all types of chords are going to be equally hard to play. What if I tried to play C minor 7? Well, first of all, C minor 7 is not available in this open position. Only C minor major 7. So right away we can, instead of playing this E, we can do this. So here is an inversion of C minor major 7, E flat, G, B, and C. And because I have one less fret to play, this one all of a sudden not only is easier to play, but actually sounds pretty good. Moving up the neck, there's your major 7. That one is easier to play, but to play the minor, I would have to stretch further here. That doesn't work so well. This one, though, is relatively easy to play. This is the one with a 7th in the bass. Remember when I did this one and had a tremendous struggle with it? So that didn't work out for me, but the minor 7 version of it does work. So what I'm saying here is, even though the purpose of me demonstrating these chords is to show how difficult closed voicings are to play, nevertheless, here and there, some of them are actually presentable and available to play relatively easier than others, and they are worth exploring nevertheless. However, closed voicings is not the topic of this lesson, so we're going to move on now to open voicings and drop chords.